All right, so oftentimes you are the only thing holding yourself back, and you are the only thing standing in your way. This is another video that, again, doesn't have any script or anything, but I actually just now got off a phone call that made me think of this, and I felt like I wanted to record something about it. So, a lot of the time, you are the thing standing in your way. Sometimes you wake up late and you have a day that just doesn't go too well, right? Like maybe you've been like scrolling on Reddit or Instagram or YouTube or something like that, right? And you've just been not spending your time in any way that you find to be productive or valuable, right? Oftentimes, it almost feels like that becomes a self-perpetuating spiral that is hard to break out of, right? Or cycle that's hard to break out of, right? Because the longer you spend doing that, the worse you feel, and the more you feel like, well, shit, right? My day's gone to waste already. I might as well continue, right? And that's just such a flawed way to look at it, but I feel like it's the way that is most common and like most default to look at it, right? But the issue with that is that, like I mentioned before, it's just incorrect, right? So it's easy to feel, once you're in that cycle that, you've already been in that cycle, so you might as well just continue doing it. But why? What reason is there for that? Really, I think that the reason people view it that way, and I myself, of course, am like fail to this all the time, right? Is you feel bad, right? And oftentimes when you feel bad, you don't want to do things, and you're already feeling disappointed with yourself, and maybe you have an issue with your self-image, and maybe you're just feeling drained, right? Because it's exhausting, because while you might not be doing anything and you're just wasting time doing whatever, right, your brain is still kind of working in the background, and it is still upset at you, essentially, right? And hold on, I'm gonna sneeze. I just snoozed. Anyway, your brain's still upset at you, right? So oftentimes when you're like, if let's say you have things to do, but you're just sitting around, laying in bed, scrolling through Instagram, your mind is still kind of nagging you about that, right? And that can get kind of exhausting. And the thing with at least myself is oftentimes I find that when you're in something, it's easier to do that thing than to change it, right? So it's like, if I'm awake, it's hard to go to sleep. If I'm asleep, it's hard to wake up, right? If I have been doing exercise and I've been like out all day, right? Then like coming back home feels kind of boring. I don't like it. But if I've done nothing in that day, I have no energy, right? Exercise all day, tons of energy. Don't do anything all day, no energy. It seems paradoxical, right? But I just think that's how the way that we humans are. And likewise, if you've just been doing nothing all day except kind of like just scrolling or wasting time, right? You do nothing, that ends up perpetuating itself because you just want to continue that cycle, right? You want to continue taking that action because that's now what's comfortable for you, right? And even if it's something that is, even if you don't like it, and even if it's annoying or frustrating, or even if it like brings you like negativity in your day and you're aware of that, it's still comfortable. And that's one of the reasons why, like, especially if you I talk about this in like other videos and stuff, right? But that's one of the reasons why it's so powerful to chase discomfort when you can, because it also helps you break out of cycles like these where if you're just kind of in this comfortable space, right? You might not like it, but it's comfortable. If you're the kind of person, and if you have experience, right, if you accustom yourself to chasing discomfort, it's easier to break out of that. Because now you have this kind of mental ability to not only become self-aware, right? Because it's easy to become self-aware of these and you still continue. But you now have the ability to take that further. You become aware and then you say, wait, let's stop, right? Like, let's just change it, right? And so I think that's a big thing, because it's just, if you really think about it, it makes no sense, right? Like, okay, you woke up at 9 a.m., let's say, right? And you've been in your bed all day. And now it's like 2 p.m., 3 p.m., and you're just like, shit, I wasted the day, right? It's easy to feel that way, but there's some kind of fallacy that has some name or something like that. But the way I think about it is, okay, it's 3 p.m. All the time that you've spent wasted has passed. That time no longer exists. It only exists in your memory, right? It is gone. It has no bearing on any decision that you make now. What you have to look at now is the future. And looking at the future, you basically have two routes, right? Either you continue what you were doing, right? Or you change it and you do something else, right? That something else could be anything, right? That's up to you. But you either continue or you don't. What you want to look at is not the past and what you've been spending that time doing. What you want to look at now is the future. And at the end of, if it's 3 p.m., let's say you go to sleep at like midnight, right? It might feel like the day's over, but you got a whole nother 9 hours left of the day before you go to bed, right? The day's not over until you go to sleep. That's what I like to tell myself, right? And that doesn't mean like, you work all day until you sleep. It just means that you're going to be spending that time doing something because you're awake. So if you don't decide what you're going to spend that time doing, the universe will just decide for you, right? And chances are you'll just end up doing something that you don't really like and that is comfortable because that's going to be the easiest thing to do. It's the lowest effort thing to do. Unless you decide to do something that's higher effort, you're going to end up doing the thing that's lowest effort. And that's not always a good thing, right? That's not always the thing that you want to do. But that time, you're going to spend that time doing something regardless. So you might as well make that decision because once we look at it, right, at the end of those 9 hours, will you feel better if you've been continuing the cycle that you've been on? Or will you feel better if you change it and you do literally anything else? Even if you just watch anime for 9 hours, right? At least that is something that you can derive some amount of value or pleasure from, as opposed to just like scrolling on Reddit, right? And I should also make another video on the differences between like high density fun and low density. I don't even know to call it fun, but that's something else. But you're going to spend, like I said, you're going to spend that time doing something regardless. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter what happens. Even if you feel the day's over, you still have hours left in the day and you will spend those hours doing something. And it's your choice as to whether you want to perpetuate what you've been doing thus far, or if you want to change it and do something that will make you feel better by the end of it, right? That decision is entirely up to you. And your past actions have absolutely no bearing on you in the moment. And this is one reason why I think it's so important to live in the present moment, right? Because you no longer become attached to your past mistakes. And I think that's something that is so common. It's such an issue because we develop a level of attachment to the mistakes that we've made, right? Either because we want to continue them, or if you make a decision and it's a bad decision, sometimes you just don't even want to admit that you're wrong, even if you know you are, right? And there's a lot of these things that I think the process of self-improvement is just learning to let go of a lot of these built-up habits. But yeah, so you're going to spend that time awake doing something. You might as well make it something that you want to do. Along with that, I think the idea of, and this is something I touched on, hold on. Let me just make sure I'm still recording because this happens all the time. Okay, so the idea of the day being over is totally ridiculous because what does the day even mean? Sometimes you might have the reason I think it's counterproductive, this idea of like having a level to the day, right? Or having a value to the day is that, let's say you just have a rough morning. All right, your day's ruined. The entire day, like the next 24 hours up until you get up again, up until you wake up again tomorrow, that's all ruined. Why? It literally doesn't exist yet. None of that has happened yet. It has not happened. Why are you throwing it all away, right? I don't mean, I feel like this might sound kind of patronizing, right? I'm not specifically like talking to, I mean, maybe this is something that you have to deal with, in which case, yeah, why are you throwing it away? Don't throw it away, right? Maybe you already know what I'm saying. Maybe nobody's even watching this. I don't know. The point is, why would you throw the entire day away just because of something that occurs in the morning, right? So why would you throw away the day, right? Just because of something that happened in the morning, something small, right? It doesn't make any sense, but it's because we view days in these singular entities, right? And there's a lot of different ways that you can address that issue, right? Some people like to think of their days as quadrants, right? So rather than, maybe something ruins your morning, right? Maybe something you wake up and, you got off on the wrong side of the bed, right? You wake up and you're upset, right? Okay, that ruins your morning. You compartmentalize that to the morning. You have your morning, you have your afternoon, you have evening and night, or something like that, right? But some people will compartmentalize it and they'll split up their day into 4 quadrants, right? And by doing that, right, you might mess up one part of the day, but at least you have 3 other parts of the day where it feels like you have a reset, right? You can try that. I like to just not even worry about, I don't know, I just don't worry about it at all, because I don't know, a day is so long. Like, if you really think about it, and this is something else, maybe a second part of the video that I want to get to, but days are so long. And I think oftentimes our perception on what a day is like, or on time being short, is what influences our reality. And this is something that I think is a big deal, because your mind, and I talk about this in other videos, your mind will start to fit everything it can into your framework of reality. So whatever you choose your framework of reality to be, that is what your mind will pick out, right? And so for this reason, I think that if you have this idea that you're short on time, that the day is so short, that the day is a singular entity, right? It's going to start feeling that way, right? And you're going to realize that, you don't have enough time to do the things you want to do. You can't prioritize the things that you want to do. And your days are, you make a mistake in the morning, and that's it, your day's ruined, and all of a sudden, like, everything's gone, right? And I don't think that that's a good way to look at it. Instead, I think days are long. Like, days are really long. Have you ever had one of those days where you're going to bed, right? You're going to sleep, and you think back to what you did that morning, and you're just like, whoa, that was today, right? And I know that sounds kind of ridiculous, but to me, like, it happens all the time. It happened just yesterday to me, because I had to hang out with a bunch of friends at night, right? But I went to jujitsu at noon, right? And then I did work in the morning. And it's like, by the time that I finished hanging out with all my friends, I saw a picture that we took at jujitsu, and I was like, wait, that was today? Because it felt like it was the previous day. And I think once you start viewing days as long, once you start viewing time as being abundant, you will start to realize, because then you're going to be able to fill up your time with more things. And the more you do, and the more novelty you have, right, the more time feels like it begins to extend itself. And I just think oftentimes, going back to like the main thesis of this, right, we stand in our own way, because by having this thought, by subscribing yourself to the idea that time is short, that your days are short, that they're singular entities, right, where like you just do a single thing a day, right, that's what you bring onto yourself, and you become a wall preventing yourself from having something greater, right, from really seeing time as for what it is. And yeah, I think it's really cool, right? It's amazing to have this feeling of time being abundant. And it's strange, because right now I'm the busiest that I have been in a while, right? I'm going to make another video on why I think taking classes is such, like, taking classes is like a cheat code for life. But I've signed up for a lot of different classes, and I'm taking a lot of different classes. I've talked about jiu-jitsu in some of my videos. That's a big one. I spend maybe 10 hours a week doing jiu-jitsu, right? And I have a full-time job. And I have a couple hangouts that I do every week, like regularly scheduled with some friends. And I cook, and I do all sorts of things, right? But I realized that the more, like, once I started viewing my time as being abundant, and I started taking advantage of that to pile on all these things onto my schedule, right? All of a sudden, my days feel longer. All of a sudden, I start feeling like I have significantly more time. And it's like, wait, I'm much busier now than I was, in the last few months, right? But I feel significantly more, I feel like I have significantly more time on my hands now than I felt when I was unemployed. And it's like, that's bizarre, but it all has to do with perception. Another thing, and this, I don't want to like diminish the value of this, right? The importance of this is, on some level, I cold quit YouTube a while back, right? And now I'm watching a couple YouTube videos a day, right? But it's not hours. So I don't really let myself watch that much YouTube. When I go, the camera fell down. So when I watch YouTube now, I do it with intention, as opposed to watching anything that's on the recommended, right? What I will do, and this is a way of sort of, in a sense, practicing both delayed gratification, but also a level of self-restraint and giving myself time, right? So that I don't get into this dopamine loop. What I've started doing is, anytime that I see something on my recommended or in my subscriber feed, or anything that I think is interesting that I might want to watch, I don't watch it. I put it on the watch later. And then anytime I watch something, it has to be from my watch later playlist. And so what this does is it shifts my experience on YouTube from being something that's very in the moment, novelty, like, dope. I forgot the word, but like something having to do with dopamine, right? But very novel and very in the moment and very just like, scrolling and cycle, right? And cycling through all this novelty and everything, right? It becomes something of intention, right? As opposed to spending hours on YouTube watching video after video after video and recommended. I go in, I look through my watch later, and I see all the things that I thought I thought had been interesting, maybe a couple days before. And from there, I choose what I will watch. And that way I still get a lot of the benefits of YouTube, and I still get to enjoy it, right? But I also get to practice delayed gratification and self-restraint, and I do it with intention. And it's great, right? Like I enjoy YouTube, and it doesn't feel like it's a bad thing. But also, along with those benefits, I have significantly more time added to my day. So along with that, I don't scroll on Instagram, I don't have Facebook, and I never had Facebook installed on my phone, and I have deleted Reddit, and I did that a while ago. So I don't have anything that I can use on my phone to like, for scrolling, for passivity, and I don't have anything that will suck my time away like that, right? So that now I can become extremely intentional with what I do spend my time on. And doing that has been great, because now it's like in a single day, I can get so much more done. And I'm not even talking like, tasks and productivity. I mean, I'm now kind of like at the busiest I've been in a while, as I've mentioned before, right? But I'm also now building up new hobbies, and I got back into playing guitar, which I haven't done for a while, and I learned a new song, right? And I'm hanging out with friends, which I haven't done in a while, right? And I'm getting exercise in. It's like I'm doing all these things all at the same time in the moment when I'm busiest. And all of that while also feeling like time is abundant and I have so much time to start so many more new things. And I just think that's cool. And I think the only reason I'm capable of doing that right now is not, partially it's that I'm lucky, right? Because I think people who feel like they don't have time, I think either have their priorities wrong or are really struggling, right? And I don't want to like minimize that either. There are some people who genuinely don't have a lot of time in their day because they are struggling financially, they have people they need to take care of. There's a lot of things like that. So I am coming from a level of privilege here to be able to do this. I have a nice high-paying job, and I'm a young single man, right? Or I don't have like any dependents or anything like that, right? I don't have to take care of any family or anything like that, right? I'm lucky in those regards, right? Because those allow me the ability to have all this free time. But also there are people who are in very similar situations to me, or even better situations to me, who don't feel like they have free time, right? Who don't feel like they have any time to do anything, right? And in those cases, I think that the person is standing in their own way. Because once you're able to get out of your own way and you're able to become aware of your own perceptions and of your own ideas, right? And you're able to intentionally dissociate from them, right? You're able to intentionally pick and choose what you want to keep and what you don't. You're able to choose the framework through which you view reality. You will be able to start living that, right? You will be able, your brain will start picking and choosing the things in your reality that fit in with that framework, right? And this can be used in good ways and in bad ways. But in this case, I think it's great to not be in your own way. And of course, I'm still in my own way in many ways, right? None of us are perfect. But at the very least, changing my perception to the idea of time being abundant, that's worked wonders for me. Because now I'm able to do so much more than I ever thought I could. And there's a lot of things that I'm doing now that I'm very excited for. And this kind of like goes back and forth, right? Like it's a positive feedback loop, because now I'm doing a lot, but I'm also really excited. I feel so much more excited for so many things than I have in a while. And it's a wonderful feeling. And that gives me so much energy that I can then use to do more things that make me even more excited, right? And it's just like this positive feedback loop of just happiness. It's great. And the only reason I'm able to do this is because I'm no longer standing in my own way, at least in that regard, right? So I think that it's important to take a look back at yourself and realize, How are you standing in your own way? Are you making it difficult to get on with your day, right? Are you holding on to something in your past, in something that happened this morning? Maybe the fact that you wasted a couple hours of the day. Are you holding on to that and using that as reason to ruin the rest of your day? Recognize that and then stop it, right? Recognize that and then stop. Maybe you have this long-term feeling of lethargy, right? Or of just kind of general maybe malaise or boredom with life or anything like that, right? Maybe you have these negative views. Maybe you feel like there isn't enough time, right? Maybe you feel like life just isn't exciting enough, right? In those cases, chances are you are also in your own way. You have walled yourself in and you are preventing yourself from going out to something greater, right? So in those cases, see how you can deconstruct that wall. See how you can get out of your own way so that you can allow yourself to experience the life that you want to experience, right? That's important. I think that's very, very important. And it's nice. It's nice to be able to wake up and feel like I've got a lot like going for me. And a lot of that, of course, is privilege and I'm lucky, right? That's definitely the case. Also, I think a significant portion of that is that I'm putting a lot of effort towards trying to understand myself and the ways in which I am blocking my own path. But yeah, so I hope that has helped you, because it has helped me. And yeah, I will. So I released my last video late because I was out of Wi-Fi for days, but this one should be released today, which is Thursday on time. And I'll go back to my regular schedule of Sunday, Thursdays, and not like anyone, it's not, although it's not like anyone noticed, because as I mentioned in my last video, I know nobody's watching these, but maybe someday someone will, and hopefully they'll get value from it. All right, see you.